normally do not have. Rachel Whipple, and Councilor Dave Shipley, and we have Mayor Kaufusi and Wayne Parker and our recorder. So I want to welcome everyone. We do have the Troop 9 here, the Scout Troop 9 from Orem today, so we're very excited. I know some of them live in Provo too, so I'm calling it Provo Orem, but we're excited they're here today. We are going to have an opening prayer by one of those scouts, David Yowsi. You can come right up to the microphone, honey.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful that we are able to meet here to discuss about Provo. Please bless that we can help prevent the floods. We're thankful that we can all help make Provo safe. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, David. The Pledge of Allegiance will be provided by Councilor Shannon Ellsworth.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm excited about this next one. This is going to be a presentation from the First Lego League team, Cookies and Milk. And these are actually all young women from my old neighborhood. And we got to hear them at the Oompa conference, which was an energy conference that Dave Shipley and I and our legal counsel were at up in St. George earlier last month. And they did a fantastic job. They picked an energy source to go over and educate us about, and I look forward to hearing from them. So we're looking at Provo students, Rachel Argyle, Sadie Burgess, Marilyn McGowan, Malin McGowan. I was like, that's her name's not Marilyn. I know Malin. Malin McGowan, Adelaide Wingate, and Hope Wingate from Centennial Middle School and Timpview High School are prepared to share a presentation they developed regarding floating solar, which I didn't even know existed before I heard this. And the group developed the idea while participating in the First Lego League. The program encourages participants to gain real-world problem-solving experience through a guided robotics program where students engage in research, problem-solving, coding, and engineering. So go ahead, girls.
Okay. I'm Adelaide.
I'm Sadie.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Malin.
And I'm Hope.
We are the Lego League team Cookies and Milk. Lego League is a STEM competition that is part robotics and part innovation project. Every year there's a theme, and this year's theme is energy. For the robotics side of the competition, we had to build a robot out of Legos and code it to autonomously complete several missions related to energy. For the innovation side of the competition, we had to come up with a project that answered this question: how do we improve the energy journey in our community? We are here today because we are invited to talk to you about how floating solar could be beneficial for Utah.
Through research, we learned about the many different energy challenges our state faces. A large challenge is population. By 2060, our population is expected to increase by 66%, and those 2.2 million people will need energy. Also, Provo is in the middle of Utah County, which is expected to have 30% of that population growth. Also, around 2030, the Bonanza coal-fired power plant will be shut down for environmental reasons. That plant supplies 35 megawatts of Provo's power. Utah's also in the middle of a severe drought, so our hydroelectric power production is down. We toured the Olmsted plant last fall, and we know they were operating at their absolute minimum. Another factor is President Biden's announcement to have carbon-free energy by 2035, which will affect our state's energy strategy. In 2021, 64% of our electricity came from coal.
We discovered that Utah is one of the best solar areas in the United States, yet in 2021, solar made up only 8% of our energy production. So the problem we decided to address was, how do we improve how solar is used in Utah? Renewable energy does come with its own challenges. This is a duck curve. The top line shows overall energy demand, and the bottom line shows non-renewable energy needed to meet that demand. The middle part, the duck, is renewable energy. Duck curves show us that renewables like wind and solar produce during the day, but in the mornings and evenings, we need coal and natural gas to meet our demand. Non-renewable energy sources have limited ability to cycle production up and down, so without storage, too many renewables can actually hurt the grid. We need to find ways to shift renewable energy into the mornings and evenings. Our project goal is to squish that duck and shift solar into the off times.
To improve solar usage in Utah, we brainstormed several ideas, everything from solar-powered dog leashes to solar-powered parking lot lights. However, as we continued our research, we decided on floating solar because we believe it can make the biggest impact on our state.
First, let's talk about what floating solar is. Floating solar, or photovoltaics, are just solar panels that float on water. The first installation was in Japan in 2007. Since then, they've been used around the world, except in the US, where they make up just 2% of our solar industry. Photovoltaics can be installed anywhere there's water. Although the technology started in areas where that water does not freeze, in recent years, more countries have been putting them in icy areas. Chile started by putting them on their mining ponds. South Korea builds their panels in the shape of their national flower, the plum blossom, and puts them on their lakes and reservoirs. South Africa started by putting them on their wastewater treatment plants. Countries in Europe and Asia have been actively installing them on the dams and in the oceans. The North Sea installations have withstood saltwater, 90-mile-per-hour winds, and over 30-foot waves. Note that the panels can even be installed next to wind turbine generators and in parallel with wave energy generators. The world's largest floating solar plant, which is 600 megawatts, is currently under construction on the Omkareshwar Dam in India. However, that record will not last long, as South Korea is currently planning a 3-gigawatt facility on the Yellow Sea. Overall, while this technology is still rapidly evolving, the US is significantly behind in making use of it. We contacted several solar companies when researching this topic, and we've only been able to find 2 in the United States who even sell it.
Floating solar is ideal for Utah. It saves land space for housing, which we will need as our population grows. And it also reduces water evaporation. For example, if we cover just 1% of Utah Lake, we would save 2.4 million gallons of water a day. And since water is cooler than land or rooftops, floating solar is also 15% more efficient than other solar options. Finally, floating solar has several environmental benefits. Sites using floating solar have observed reduced algal blooms because the partial shading of the panels limits the amount of direct sunlight to the blooms. Migratory birds have also shown not to be impacted. The panels do not reflect light like water, and during the night, the panels look different enough from the water that birds have not hit them. Instead, it has been shown that birds actually like to hunt off of these panels. Similarly, fish have also shown not to be impacted. Several sites in Asia actually run fish farms underneath their panels. In other areas, ecologists have observed that fish actually like to hide underneath these panels. Finally, various studies have been done to show that floating solar is safe to be put on water areas, which will eventually become drinking water.
Utah needs to start an aggressive evaluation of floating solar. Our first goal should be to install at existing hydroelectric dams and on wastewater treatment plants. In theory, on the hydroelectric dams, we could squish that duck by shutting off the water flow from the dams while floating solar is producing, which would build up water level in the reservoir. Then in the off hours, we could run hydroelectric harder by using up the water level we built. Now, we won't really turn the river completely off, but floating solar gives us flexibility to adjust our power generation. We can also use floating solar to supplement the low hydroelectric power generation due to the drought. As for wastewater treatment plants, they're just an easy way to make power and conserve water. Floating solar reduces wastewater treatment needs by minimizing both evaporation and the potential for organic growth. Park City has recently approved a floating solar project to be installed at their Signal Hill wastewater treatment facility. It will be a 600 kilowatt facility on a 3.25 acre pond. It is scheduled to be installed this year. This will be the first floating solar installation in Utah.
While Utah has 29 hydroelectric facilities, only 9 are true reservoirs with dams. While the exact area the panels need to cover depends on the exact type of panels used, a general rule of thumb is that for every megawatt of power we want to generate, we need to cover 2 acres of water. Based on that, the table shows that by covering less than 1% of each of these reservoirs, except Kazi, we could install enough floating solar to match the peak capacity of the existing turbines.
There are several floating solar design options available. The design on the top left is designed specifically for high waves and wind, while the middle picture shows an example of submerged floating solar technology. The panels are obviously not visible, which is a plus in many areas. However, though, since the panels are under the water, scuba divers are needed to perform maintenance. The third, which is not as effective and is expensive too. Another option is sun tracking, which is a fairly new technology. The panels, too, as it follows the sun, and it collects solar from both sides of the panels. But the one that we would most likely use for our project is the traditional raft system because it is the cheapest and provides easy access for workers. And it's also modular, so we can add or subtract panels if needed. Most installations are actually built on land and then are shoved out onto the water.
For hydroelectric facilities, our plan is to locate the panels right behind the dams to minimize installation costs. We will also tie into the existing land-based transformers, inverter boxes, and grid systems. For each systems, the panels are either anchored to the bottom or sides of the reservoir. Shore anchors typically cost about 50% less than bottom anchors do. Shore anchor line lengths are the length of the anchor lines will depend on the climate of the installation. In places that freeze, the anchor lines are made longer to accommodate the additional volume of the ice. Typically, in the winters, the panels either freeze in place or freeze on top of the water. For wastewater treatment facilities, the setup is similar. However, ballasted anchors are used, made of concrete blocks, to make sure that the wastewater treatment pond liners do not get punctured. This is a close-up of the raft system. As you can see, it is connected via pins, and there are floats in between each of the solar panel frame systems.
For phase 2, we need to evaluate our lakes. Covering just 1% of Utah Lake is enough for a 480 megawatt facility. On average, solar only produces 25% of the day, but even 120 megawatts provides a large part of the future needs of these 6 cities. The Great Salt Lake is 10 times bigger than Utah Lake and has huge potential. We do need to be aware about issues like the June sucker and the extreme salinity of the Great Salt Lake. Make sense to start slowly here and take advantage of the modular aspect of floating solar. But in the end, it is very likely that floating solar here could benefit both humans and the environment.
For a reservoir with existing hydropower, a 1 megawatt facility's capital cost is about 1.5 to 2 million, while a 5 megawatt plant will cost about 8 million. This is about 15 to 20% more than land-based solar, but about 10% less than rooftop. However, though, floating solar uses the water up from underneath to self-clean its panels, so it actually has significantly lower operating costs, which in the end actually makes it comparable to land-based solar. As for wastewater treatment plants, a 500 to 750 kilowatt system is $2.10 per watt direct current. In order to really squish that duck, we need to store solar energy. We could either use large batteries like these like the Tesla batteries, or pumped hydro energy storage, which is when you pump water up the mountains when you have excess electricity and let it come back down through turbines when needed. Either way, Utah needs energy storage to really shift towards renewable energy.
We can use the Inflation Reduction Act to help pay for this. For the next 10 years, government entities can qualify for a 30% refund on solar and battery projects, another 10% off for using U.S. manufactured equipment, and another 10 to 20% off depending on the economic status of the area. Park City's Signal Hill facility was also able to get a Blue Sky grant to help with the funding. And since floating solar is modular, we can choose to spread the cost out over time by installing in phases.
There are so many people who have helped us learn about energy throughout this year. We want to take a moment to recognize them and thank them for all their help.
In conclusion, we believe that floating solar and energy storage are the solutions to Utah's current and coming energy challenges. To quickly recap, floating solar is 15% more efficient than various other types of solar, sits on free real estate, can reduce our water evaporation by 70%, can have various environmental benefits, can reduce our wastewater treatment needs, and right now is comparable in cost to various other types of solar through the Inflation Reduction Act, where we can save from anywhere from 40 to 60%. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Are there any questions?
Okay, counselors, any questions for the girls? Counselor Ellsworth.
Yeah, I'm curious how long have you been working on this?
We started researching this project last fall, so like in August, September. We've been working on it for a long time. Like every week we've been researching, and more times we've been doing field trips, and so like probably like 50 plus hours. A long time. We've been working on this for a long time.
Yeah. What was the most challenging thing that you found along the way?
Okay. Well, one of the most challenging things for us sometimes was just finding different resources. As we mentioned, so many people has helped us. We've been able to visit with lots of people and gain lots of their valuable feedback. But being able to really like find resources on this and being able to like stick with it and really be able to get the research data that we needed was difficult at sometimes.
Okay. I'm excited for you to all be electrical engineers and come work for Provo Power. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ladies. You guys are presenting at John Curtis's Environmental Summit, so good luck with that. And we appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
That was really good.
All right, next, Provo City School District Center for Advanced Personal Studies, or the CAPS program, the public service announcement. They're going to go over their public service announcement on anti-litter campaign. And Dixon, okay. Just to explain this, I don't know, those of you who don't know about CAPS, my son is in it right now, and it is a program through the high school where they work with businesses. Right now, this group worked with us as Provo City to do a project for us, kind of like you'd hire a contractor, but we're hiring the high school kids, and they are getting to learn about putting a project together, ideas or ads or different things that we've used over the years. But go ahead, girls.
Hi, I'm Drew Beck, and I'm a senior at Timpview High School.
I'm Aislinn Beals, and I'm a senior at Provo High. We are in the software development and digital design strand in CAPS.
So our client was Mr. Dixon, and he had us create 2 infographics relating to anti-littering and then 1 PSA. So here's the first infographic that we created.
So this is just going through the like top most littered items, not in order necessarily,
but most of what we see are beverage containers, takeout wrappers, like food products, and plastic waste. So.
And then here's the second infographic. We decided to do the first infographic more focused on like the digital design aspect of our strand. And we decided to put this infographic as the more facts-based. So as you can see, we have some facts from different sources, like KSL News says that cleaning up debris in highways costs about $2 million annually to clean that up. And plastic bags can harm wildlife, and yes. And then for the PSA, we decided to do a stop motion video.
We created multiple storyboards and presented them to Dixon and Brett from the video department, and this is the one they chose. And we just kind of wanted it to be whimsical and cute, and this is how it turned out.
Bye, sweetheart. Have fun. Make sure you throw that in the trash can.
Whatever, Mom. Hey guys, let's litter.
Let's trash this whole neighborhood.
I don't care if this whole place fills up with garbage.
Bye, sweetheart. Have fun. Make sure you throw that in the trash can.
Don't be bitter. Stop the litter.
So that was kind of the whole idea. We wanted to show how much one piece of trash, how much it could cause.
It accumulates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing these on, I know the mayor will use them in her social media, and we look forward to it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
All right, next we will have a presentation regarding Provology, the Provology graduates. And for those of you who don't know, Provology is a program that any of you can do, and it's where you apply to come through. Dixon, how many weeks is it?
It's an 11-week program.
11
We
week, yeah.
Do it in the fall and in the spring.
And it just helps you get educated on specific departments of Provo City. You'll go through the whole city, the different departments, do field trips, check it all out, and you learn a lot about local government and your city. Go ahead, Dixon.
Thank you, Chair. So let me just read this first, the recognition, and then I know some of our participants aren't going to be here tonight, but because this is being broadcast and maybe they're watching remotely, we'll go ahead and read all the names. The Regents of Provology on the nomination of the Graduate Council of the City of Provo, having demonstrated ability by collaborative participation in Provo City and its many functions, award the degree of PhD, Provo honorary degree, with all the rights and privileges thereto pertaining, given at Provo City Center this 12th graduating class 2023, and then signed by Mayor Kaufusi and our Chief Administrative Officer, Wayne Parker. So I'll go ahead and read the names. What we'd like to do is have them just come up and get their certificate, maybe stand to the side, and when we've read all the names, if the council and the mayor could join us for a photo op, take a picture, and then we'll move on to the next items. Okay, Allison Lundquist. Amy Wright. Bart Bradshaw. I don't believe Bart's going to be here this evening. Cameron Waga. Chet Harmer. I don't believe he'll be here. Christian Otting. Cynthia Lewis. Ian Peterson. I think Ian wasn't going to be here. James Cody Hill. Jennifer Wilson. John Robert Adams. Jolene Merica. Make it. Julie Red. Karen Salmon. Laney Sherwood. Make it. Linda Shirley. Michael Roche. Nick Wilcox. Roger Downey. And I think Sandra and William Lamb were not able to make it this evening. So just really quickly, it was 11 weeks. We toured the sewer treatment plant. We had a presentation on water. We had a presentation from the fire department, finance, parks and recreation. So it really is a great program. It's a Citizens Academy. Again, we'll start again in the fall, and we'll have a link online here, probably starting in August. I would encourage all of our residents or business owners to be a part of that, and they'll be able to sign up. So if we could get a picture with the council and mayor in our group, that would be awesome.
Great. Thank you, Dixon. Is this one of your biggest classes?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes,
I think
great
so.
class.
I love
Great
it.
questions. They had some really tough ones. but
Nice.
We were able to answer most of them.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, just right here.
We'll have to have everybody scoot in, like, we're gonna have to have front and back row. Wayne, going in. Shannon, you're gonna have to squeeze right on in there. Scoot on in. If you're a little bit shorter, can we have you come up in the front? Can we have you in? How's that looking for you? Am I in your way? We have that great podium. All right, I have to admit, this has been a fun meeting for us in the sense that we don't usually get to do this kind of fun stuff. It's more boring stuff. So we're grateful to all of you. Okay, the scouts are welcome to move up if they want. There's front row seats now if that's your prerogative. All right, now we're going to do a special recognition of the Provo City Information Systems Division for Mayor Michelle Kaufusi for exceptional service during the new City Hall move and Provo Airport Terminal technology upload. And this will be presented by our Mayor Michelle Kaufusi.
Thank you, Chair McKay. I just feel like we can't go on any further into this beautiful new facility without taking time out to thank this amazing department that made it all possible. One of the privileges I have as mayor is to shine a light on hard work that otherwise might go unnoticed. This is one of those occasions. Frankly, a ton of work of the city employees fits this category. I'm grateful to all our employees who work hard on their own corner of our organization, doing work that rarely is recognized. Forgive me for highlighting one group today, but they are representative of many others, but they accomplish some major tasks that I feel we have to pause and recognize. Provo is so fortunate to have amazing employees who take seriously our charge to build the quality of life in our city every day. Nowhere has the challenge been met as well as how our Information Systems Division employees have risen to the challenge over the last 2 years. Over the past 2 years, Provo embarked on 2 massive city facility projects that completely changed the landscape of operations and technology in the city. The City Hall and Airport Terminal projects required great skill and dedication by our technology workforce. We are proud to recognize you and your contribution in this evening's council meeting. It can't be overstated how important technology is for all departments, and our IS staff played a key part in the build, move, and successful transition of operations. Amazing result of not a single operational downtime. More than 1,500 hours were worked by our IS division staff beyond their regular over the 2-year workday over the 2-year period. This included, among other feats, a new phone system, a move of the primary data center with over 200 servers, a complete core network build and migration, major wiring plant with fiber builds, wireless internet access with cellular repeater design and installation, new facilities, security systems installations, specialized airport technology installations, and amid it all, a full 911 dispatch build out and migration to facilitate the relocation and combination of the Provo and Orem dispatch centers. We are pleased to recognize the leadership of Josh Erwig, our Information Systems Division Director. I'm going to have all of you stand though when I get done. So go ahead and stand, Josh, because you're going to be up there for just a second and everyone will join you. Kyle Hansen, who led the City Hall project. And Abe Duarte, who led the Airport Terminal project. Is he here? Oh, there you are. Hi. Who worked so many hours to make it all come together for the employees and citizens of Provo. I'd like to ask all of our IS folks to stand because I know there's a lot of them here and they're probably saying, Mayor, we're 5 minutes over the workday, let us go home. But we do want to recognize you. So please join me in expressing the gratitude of the city and our residents for the amazing work they did through this challenging time. Josh, do you want to say anything or?
Well, my father would say.
Come up to the mic so everyone can hear you.
My father would say the correct pronunciation is Earig, even though Earwig does come up a lot.
Thank you, Josh.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
But on behalf of all of us, we do appreciate the support the council and the mayor's office have given us to allow us to succeed in this. And I will say that the staff has been very pleased to do the work on behalf of the residents, and the blood, sweat, and tears were worth it. So we thank you all.
Thank you.
Again, we're going to have you guys squeeze. Get really close. Get really close. Yeah, let's have. We're all the heights over here. That's where it is, right? What do you think, Rachel? Squeeze in tight. Yeah, we're going to wait. John really should get up there. John. Thank you guys.
All right, as indicated on the screen, a required public hearing will be held for certain agenda items prior to council action. After each such item has been presented, time to comment will be provided for all those who wish to speak. For items that do not require public hearing, public comment will still be taken following presentation of the item, but will be limited to 10 minutes. At this time, up to 15 minutes have been set aside for an open public comment period, which is intended to allow comment on matters that do not, in this meeting, on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Those participating on Zoom will need to use that raise hand feature to indicate they wish to comment. The chair may choose to alternate between in-person and online commenters. Please begin your comments by stating your name and your city of residence. You will have 2 minutes to speak. To assist the city recorder with the minutes, we ask those commenting in person to print your name on a slip of paper provided at the back of the room and place it in the container near the podium. Online commenters shall spell out their names before commenting. Are there any people that would like to comment? Come on up.
My name is Trevor Sharp, and I own a residential lot at 1220 East, 960 South. And at the urging of staff, they've asked me to come and voice my opinion on your current code in reference to accessory dwelling units. Currently, your code requires somebody who wants to build a basement apartment and rent it out to go knock on your neighbor's door and get 66% approval for that. Quite frankly, I think that's a little odd. And I think it's probably up there with what President Biden is trying to do right now and basically telling everybody who has high credit scores that we get a subsidized people who have low credit scores. That's about I guess my opinion, how I feel about that code that currently exists. As I look at your general plan, I see that your plan here says we are a welcoming community that supports purposeful development of a broad range of housing types. And one of your goals is to provide and maintain a mix of housing types and various price points. So this code is very onerous. And I think what it's going to do, and this is coming from somebody who develops for a living. And I spent 6 months now trying to figure out how to build a house on a residential lot that's been vacant for 15 years. I'm trying to build it according to your code, but every single time I come to do this, I get knocked down. There's some other thing I have to do. I'm told to try to do a variance. It's actually just crazy to me. So here's my proposal to you is that get rid of the language, particularly about having your neighbors talk to your neighbors about giving the okay to build a basement apartment. I think that's just, I just don't agree with that. And then to get 66% approval is odd. Where I've got 5 people I'm supposed to get approval from, I got 3 of the approvals, so I got 60%. Because I have a 4th who said they didn't want to approve it, that's 80%. So I can't even get to 66%. So you got to somehow look at the code and have some sort of variance or leniency on it. I would prefer you get rid of it altogether, but at least look at the percentages and say majority or something.
Thanks. Okay. We are on to our action items. Staff, is it Tyler? Was it Tyler? Could we get his contact information, please? Trevor, could we get your contact information, please? Oh. Okay, thank you. All right. The Provo City Municipal Council, a resolution consenting to the appointment of individuals to the Energy Board, and this will be presented by Mayor Michelle Kaufusi.
All right. Chair McKay and Vice Chair Whipple and members of the Municipal Council. I'm recommending the following reappointments to the Provo City's Energy Board as indicated below and submit them herewith for council's advice and consent. Gary Winterton. I recommend Gary be reappointed to a 4-year term on the Energy Board ending December 31st, 2026. And the second is Julie Radel. I'm recommending Julie be reappointed to a 4-year term on the Energy Board ending December 31st, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Any council discussion? We'd like to call for a vote on the applied motion. Chair McKay, yes. Vice Chair Whipple?
Yes.
Councillor Ellsworth?
Yes.
Councillor Fillmore is excused. Councillor Hanley, he's also excused. Councillor Shipley
Yes.
and Councillor Hoban.
Yes.
All right, so that's unanimous with 5 of us. All right, agenda item, a presentation on the proposed tentative budget for Provo City, and Mayor Kaufusi will present her budget letter.
Okay, so I think the slide's off, right? Because we're not the redevelopment agency, we're the tentative budget. There we go. Perfect. I can't believe we're finally to this point. It is a task like no other to take on managing a city budget and coming before the council and handing over a balanced budget while trying to meet the needs of the council, city's goals, and the directors and employees' needs. So I always do a little letter just to kind of give you a highlight, and then I'll turn the time to John Borgett, and he will also speak about the budget we've worked on. I would like to start by expressing my deep gratitude for the team effort that has led to this budget. First and foremost, let me thank you fine city council members for your dedicated public service and for your cooperative work with my administration to improve Provo for our residents. Thank you, particularly for your many hours listening to the needs of our departments and wrestling through your own budget priorities. I want to also thank Department Director John Borgett and his fine team, including Kelsey Zarbach and Andrea Wright, for their expertise in helping me assemble the budget. John loses many hours of sleep every budget year, and he tells me, and I worry about him. And I love and appreciate him for his dedication. As in past years, he and his team have run countless options, as my team and I have had our own personal wrestles with those options. Guiding everyone in this process is a desire to serve Provo City and its residents. I can honestly say that I believe everyone involved with this budget wants to see Provo City fulfill our new mission statement, which is exceptional care for an exceptional community. In doing so, we keep an eye on Provo's 4 pillars: welcoming, safe and sound, economically vibrant, and forward-looking. I think you know that I have tried very hard each year to tailor a budget to the guidance you as a city council have provided me, and this year is no different. Your top priorities included public safety, cybersecurity, and employee retention, and the budget addresses those as follows. So public safety, I am proud to announce that my proposed budget includes 2 new police officers. This builds on my steady record of increasing our city's investment in public safety throughout my tenure in office, including by increasing our number of police officers in every budget I have ever prepared. It also includes the funding requested by Chief Beebe for a technology known as flock safety, which is, as he indicated, will be a force multiplier for his team. This budget also includes 3 new positions in the fire department, which are needed to be ready for future airport expansions. Remarkably, the airport is already able to cover the funding for these positions. Indeed, one of the great success stories this budget year is our airport. For many years, our airport has operated with help of a general fund subsidy. In this budget, the airport will be covering not only all its direct operational expenses, but also all expenses pertaining to police and fire services at the airport. This points to the amazing leadership and team at the airport. I congratulate them on this major achievement. The next goal, cybersecurity. Part of being safe and sound is being protected from cyber attacks. This budget provides funding for the critically needed email gateway requested by our full-time cybersecurity specialist. It also provides an additional member to our informational service department, which bodes well for our cybersecurity. This new IT employee will be focused largely on assisting our public works department, including the airport. The third, employee retention. Like you, I recognize that for Provo City to provide exceptional care to our exceptional community, we must recruit and retain the very best team members. We must treat them with respect and dignity. Keeping our wages and salaries on pace with inflation, or as close to it as we can, is one of the ways we can do that. I am therefore pleased to announce that in addition to our usual package of market study adjustments and merit increases, this budget proposes a 4% cost of living adjustment. Although I wish I could do much more, this amount is in harmony with the cost of living adjustments provided by other local government organizations in our area. I know this because I've been talking to mayors and others about this for months and months. I care deeply about our employees, and I am thrilled when we are able to give them a little boost in this way. This budget certainly does not make every dream come true. To my department directors who did not get everything you sought, please know that your requests were not ignored and that I would love to find ways to meet your needs in the future. The reality is that inflation is making everyone's life more difficult, including the life of a mayor wrestling through a budget. But this budget keeps Provo City on a sound path forward with no cuts to resident services and no use of rainy day funds. So I am pleased to submit this budget for your consideration. Thank you. I'll now turn the time over to John Borgett.
Thank you, Mayor Kaufusi. Council Chair McKay and Vice Chair Whipple and the council, it's a pleasure for me to come and kind of walk through a little bit more of the budget. I just want to thank the mayor and the administration, the department directors for all the work that they've done in contributing to the budget process. I'd also mention that the budget is now available on the city website for residents as well as council members to access. It's provo.org. And if you go into provo.org and go to the finance department and then reports, you'll see the budget and it'll be the 2024 budget. I know the mayor did it, but I want to do it again. I would just really like to thank Kelsey Zarbach and Andrea Wright for all the work that they've done on the budget. They've been amazing. And this is Andrea's first year on the budget this year, and she's stepped in and just done a great job. My comments will be coming from the budget highlights section, which we have up on the screen. It's in the budget, and I think along with the mayor's letter, it's a great place for residents as well as council members to really get to see what the meat, what's included in the budget, because the budget is a large document, and this just kind of come by kind of a high level to kind of walk through. And so just going to kind of walk through. The first thing I would mention, the budget is the result of many hours and the contribution of council members, the public, employees, and city leadership. And those watching may not be aware, but the council has already met starting, I believe, in February with all the directors and got feedback and had an opportunity to ask questions as the budget process had begun. Preparation for the fiscal year 2024 budget began in January 2023 with the mayor, deputy mayor, the CAO, and administrative budget team. One of the first thing that we looked at was revenue needs and forecasts, budget expenses and shortfalls, and particularly this year, the impacts of inflation. Provo City continues to work hard in maximizing every dollar and providing a great value to our residents. Our employees understand that every tax dollar we receive is a sacrifice from our residents and trust to use it as wisely as possible. In fiscal year 2024, budget supports an ongoing goal of continued fiscal health with a sustainable budget. Monies are invested in capital improvements, vehicle replacement, and employees. Provo City employees are among the greatest and most critical assets of the city, and by investing in them, we were able to recruit, develop, and retain top employees. The administration has reviewed and addressed the budget priorities that were provided by the Municipal Council in the fiscal 2024 tentative budget. In accordance with the council and administration's priorities, promote the sustainability and long-term outlook of the city, rates and fees are designed to cover the cost of their services. The appendix of the budget document has a list of the consolidated fee changes. Included in this budget are some utility rate increases, and I just want to go over those. First of all, and many of these are related to inflation and what we're experiencing in the cost of services, but there's a recommended 2% increase in the energy fund, or an average of $1.27 monthly for the average residential home. There's a 3% increase in the wastewater fund, or an average of $2.49 monthly increase for the average residential home. An increase of 5%, or an average of $2.61 monthly increase for the water fund. A 7% increase in the sanitation, or $2.17 monthly increase. And then finally, in our utility transportation fund, a 5% increase, or an 18-cent per month average for average residential home. The mayor covered most of the changes in personnel costs. I would just mention that one of the things that we've done for years is we have what's called a Millman Index, which kind of gives us an idea and a real good way to gauge what's happening to medical costs. And this year in the Millman Index report, their medical costs are anticipated to go up 4.6%. So as part of this budget in January 1st, 2024, there'll be an increase in the amount that's provided to employees for their medical and dental and other medical coverage of 4.6%. Likely there'll be a similar or an approximate very similar cost increase for the amounts that they pay for the different options that they pick. We also fund the sick leave buyout. Of course, we participate with the Utah retirement system. We fund an amount for each department for employee appreciation and recognition. And then we also have a birth, parent, and adoption leave program. Supplemental requests are always something that we look at very closely, and the council evaluates this as they review the budget over the next 6 weeks or more. And so I would mention that there were 60 requests this year for a total of $5.3 million. And of that 5.3, 1,513,328 have been funded in the fiscal 24 budget. So I'm just going to kind of walk through the ones that the mayor didn't touch on. She touched on the key ones, but I want to just mention that in development services, there is $28,936 that's been budgeted that will help provide a pay increase for their part-time parking officers. Parking enforcement has been a big priority for the council, and they want to be able to attract and retain the best talent there so they can continue to enforce. Also with the municipal council, as each of you are aware, and the residents hopefully are aware, there's been a change and kind of a new way that we're administering our neighborhood meetings. We have neighborhood district meetings. And so in the proposed budget, there's some funding to provide a citywide mailing to give notification to the residents of these meetings, and then also some funding for additional programming. That's $25,000. In our Parks and Recreation Department, there's 53,000 that have been budgeted for part-time studio positions, recreation instructors, usher staffing, and the Harbor Park lease. And I would mention that each of these requests are funded by additional anticipated revenue from these changes. And so make you aware of that. In our Public Works Department, there is included in the budget a $16,000 increase that will be reclassifying the existing business manager position to create a deputy director for administration. In wastewater, there's 2 positions that have been included. There's a pretreatment specialist and an instrumentation technician. And then in storm drain, there is 1 position for a floodplain manager. And so that summarizes the supplemental requests. I will mention that we have some one-time requests that came in through the general fund that we just, based on the revenues and where we're at, we couldn't fund. And so we're going to look at a couple of options with the municipal council. One would be to come back and possibly do an appropriation for those, or maybe even looking at potentially carrying over funds. But we'll be reviewing those with council and want to get council's feedback. As far as some other funded items, I would mention that included in this budget, each of the directors were basically told to review their budgets. And if there's items that inflation has just increased those costs dramatically, we've given them the option, or we gave them the opportunity that what they did is evaluate and determine how much those items had increased. We asked them to provide justification, and then we reviewed those and then have included those as part of the proposed budget. It's just not practical or reasonable to feel like with these inflationary times that you could just live on a fixed budget from prior years. And so that was looked at and reviewed. Also included in this budget is it's $191,000, and it's an upgrade to the City View software, which we use with our Development Services Department. This is something that's been needed for a couple of years, and we feel like it's going to provide a number of enhancements, including better, by getting their most recent version, better cybersecurity protection, as well as better web access to both residents and developers that are working through the Development Services Department. So have a very strong recommendation that's included. I also mentioned that with the council's new ordinance that was passed in the past year, the percent for the arts ordinance, all new capital projects are being evaluated to determine if they meet the requirements, and if they do, then we are tracking and including that in the budget. We have our recreation facilities capital fund, and we had some discussions with the council not too far back on this, but the way that works is the first $400,000 of net income for the recreation capital fund goes to basically funding this capital replacement need. And then if they have additional net income, then that we split that. Half goes to the general fund balance and the other half goes into the recreation facilities capital fund. Also in the general fund, we have a number of facilities, and each of those facilities, we have set aside funding to adequately maintain the building and equipment over their useful life. I would just say with this new building and the new airport terminal, Dick Blackham, our facilities manager, went through and actually did this last year, but just to let you know, he looked at all the systems, which includes air conditioning, heating, cooling, various systems that are throughout there. They were looked at and reviewed, and there was a useful life established for those, and we're setting aside, based on that useful life, each year funding, so that when those needs or replacements come up, that we'll have the funding set aside. Also, we've got $2.3 million budgeted for the RAP tax, and included in the budget is funding for recreation and parks projects based on that $2.3 million. And then the city we have included in the budget the recommended vehicle replacements that came from our fleet City Fleet Committee. In summary, we welcome and encourage to the Municipal Council a careful review of our recommended budget. We also welcome the input of our residents as we proceed through the process of adopting the city's annual budget. As always, our staff is at your disposal to respond to questions and assist in any way the Municipal Council would like over the next several weeks, and I would say at least 6 weeks. We believe that you will find this budget responsive to your concerns and aspirations and forward thinking as we plan together for the future of the Provo community. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much, John. I do know that some of us would love printed copies of that budget.
Yes,
If staff could
what
work on
we
that.
mentioned to Justin and his staff is that we will have hard copies tomorrow, and he's given us the number. We just
Perfect.
asked for one additional day as we were
Great.
putting it together. We'll have it tomorrow.
Thanks, John. Any questions for John?
Yes.
Counselor Ellsworth.
Thanks for describing the rate increases. What about the dependency on increased taxes, right? The library board proposed a truth and taxation hearing to pay for their facilities. There might have been a request for police officers. Can you give us a review of that?
Well, basically, what's included in the budget that we're delivering to the council does not have a property tax increase. But what the plan would be with the library, what's been happening over the last 10 years or so, and maybe even a little bit longer, is that with inflation increasing the costs over time and with the property tax staying pretty much flat because we haven't adjusted the rate, they've been using fund balance, and they're actually using fund balance in this budget too. And they had shared when they did their budget presentation, a chart that kind of showed what their projected fund balance is. And so basically it said that it would drop below what the library board recommended within the next year or two if we didn't do a rate adjustment. And so if the council decides and if if after input they decide to make an increase, then what would happen would be that they would just use less fund balance this year than they currently are using with the proposed budget that's been delivered. And I think what they recommended was to come back maybe over a 5-year period and adjust the rates each year to get us more on a level platform. But so that's kind of the plan with the library. And then as far as the general fund property tax rate, that has not been included in the budget. And so we're supportive if the council, would like to proceed with that, but it's not included in the budget.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Counselor Shipley.
Hi, John. Thank you. What was the assumption for this year as far as sales tax increase year over year?
Okay, so I would just mention a couple things. First of all, is probably everybody's aware, we continue to start being more concerned about sales tax revenue and the overall economy, and we are starting to see some slowing in sales tax revenues. Right now, where we're at for this year projected, we've actually received 8 months of the year through February, and we have 4 months to go. And right now we are projected to be just slightly under a 6% increase over the previous year. And then it's hard to know exactly where we'll be, but that's where we're projected. And last year we budgeted a little lower, about 6%. So we're going to be right now, if we stay under form, we'll just be slightly under our budget, really close, but slightly under our budget we did last year. And based on kind of looking through and analyzing, we have budgeted for a 4% increase for next year. So we've dropped it down from a 6 to a 4. If you looked over the last, and we'll do this in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to come in and kind of go through the revenue forecast with the council. But our sales tax increases for the last 5 or 6 years have exceeded that significantly. But it's hard to know. But that's what we've done based on our assumption, and I'll share some more details and specifics in 2 weeks when we go through the revenues.
As far as revenue changes though, beyond the increases from the utilities that I'm sure are assumed in as well and the money that we get back from utilities. That's probably the biggest mover, right? As far as revenue change year to year is what we assume will change on the sales tax side.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we meet with each of the directors, particularly, with development services for where we anticipate and think that we're going to be going with our building permit fees and revenues related to construction. And then of course we meet with other directors, for other various revenues. And then we kind of we look at trends and base it on there. And so a number of the one that tends to be the most volatile is sales tax. And it was kind of interesting because Utah has performed better than the national economy. And for a period of time there, it seemed to be just kind of moving along. But then in the last couple of months, we've started to see some slowing. And so it made us kind of analyze and kind of make some changes. And we actually did drop back even a little bit more to get to 4%, but that's where we're at right now.
And one thing, if I can, when we talk about carryovers and when we talk about other things, it's kind of more of a celebratory, like, hey, there's some excess funds and these departments did all a great job of being good stewards, throughout the year. That's why there's excess funds in many cases that they didn't use all of. This summary seems more of a here's where we're going to raise and increase and increase and increase. And I'd love a little bit more balance in future budgets and maybe in the final budget about what departments are doing to be more efficient, where they can maybe cut FTE. We're all laser focused on the fact that inflation is a really tough, we're in a very tough environment. We all understand that. And that it's a challenge, for all departments to be budget conscious. But I would encourage us to celebrate anything that departments are doing to reduce headcount, to reduce ongoing expense, to reduce debt as a city, those types of things as well in the summary statement.
Okay. The other thing I would add too is that I know over the next 6 weeks, we're going to have a number of budget meetings with the council as you go through and review the budget and ask your questions and whatnot. And we'd be more than happy to have some of those same discussions in one of those meetings if you'd like as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for John? Right. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.
And we will open this up for public comment. Anyone who'd like to make public comment on this item? All right. That will have a recess of the Provo Municipal Council. And if there's an objection, if there's no objection, we will now recess the Provo Municipal Council and convene as the redevelopment agency of the Provo governing board by unanimous consent.
So the governing board of the redevelopment agency will hear a presentation of the proposed tentative budget for the redevelopment agency of Provo. And this will be presented by Kelsey Zarbach.
Good evening. Just so citizens are aware, the Redevelopment Agency of Provo City is a separate government entity created by Provo City under a state code, Title 17, which governs community development and renewal agencies. So the City Council for Provo City is the governing board of the Redevelopment Agency, and the mayor also serves as the agency's chief executive officer. What the Redevelopment Agency does is primarily deals with programs and projects to help revitalize targeted areas of the city of Provo, including the Central Business District, which is Provo's downtown and surrounding neighborhoods, and other project areas as designated by the Redevelopment Board or the City Council. The Redevelopment Agency's primary asset in this revitalization effort is tax increment financing. So the fiscal year 24 proposed expense budget is $1.2 million, which is very similar to the fiscal year 23 budget. And the main change is a 4% cost of living adjustment for the employee in that fund. Any questions? Thank you.
Does the board have any questions? Apparently not. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will open this up for public comment if anyone wants to comment on this item. Okay.
So
Yes,
is
board
the
member
budget-
McKay.
thank you. Is the budget something coming from the general fund, or is it just purely the money that's already within the redevelopment agency?
So it's not from the general fund. There's like tax increment, like there are two funds in the redevelopment agency. We have the tax increment fund. And so you have, basically it tracks the property tax increment revenue and associated payments that, the redevelopment agency has entered into with certain property owners. So I think, off the top of my head, like Days Market is one of those agreements. And so that's kind of how that one operates. And then you have the new development fund, which is, there's really not a lot of action going on in there. It's just a fund that the RDA can use for things outside of the tax increment financing. So the general fund isn't impacted by this at all.
I guess just again, I feel uneducated on this and would look forward to a work meeting when we can get fully educated even on this aspect of it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Any other comments or discussion from the board? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close this item and we will adjourn the redevelopment agency of Provo. If there's no objection, we will convene as the Provo City Stormwater Service District by unanimous consent.
All right, the Provo City Stormwater Service District will now hear a presentation on the proposed tentative budget for the Provo City Stormwater Service District, and this will be presented by John Borgett.
John asked for me, Kelsey Zarbach,
Great.
to do this one too.
Go, Kelsey.
Hi. So again, similar to the redevelopment agency, the Stormwater Service District is a separate governmental entity created by Provo City, and the City Council is the governing board of the Stormwater Service District. So the district is responsible for protecting property from flooding and preventing the public street system from floodwater during rainstorms and spring runoff, which you've probably heard a lot about lately. In fiscal year 24, the proposed expense budget is $6.2 million, and that includes a 4% cost of living adjustment for employees and an approved supplemental request for a full-time floodplains manager position. And so those are the main changes to this budget compared to last year. Any questions?
Councilor Whipple.
So the stormwater is a division of Public Works, and we are doing a cost of living adjustment in our regular budget, but that wouldn't have helped these employees?
No, it does include the cost of living adjustment. So
okay,
that's built in, as well as the supplemental request for the floodplains manager.
Okay. I was just trying to figure out, there are so many pieces that interconnect and overlap, and I'm a year in and I still don't have it all straight. Thank you for helping.
Oh, no problem. It's a lot for sure.
Any other questions for Kelsey? All right, thanks, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Now we'll open this item up. Well, any discussion on the council? All right, public comment. Any public comment on the Stormwater Service District budget? All right, if there are no objection, we will now adjourn the Provo City Stormwater Service District to reconvene as the Provo City Municipal Council by unanimous consent. All right, we have an applied motion on a resolution authorizing the mayor to submit an application for a Utah County Municipal Recreation Grant to be used for restrooms and playground improvements at Rock Canyon Park. And this will be presented by Doug Robbins, our Assistant Park and Recs Director.
Thank you. The resolution you have before you this afternoon involves an annual grant from Utah County that gives to cities within the county revenues generated through the restaurant tax, the TRCC. Tax funds distributed are distributed based on population size, and Provo's allocation this year is $113,594. We've used these grant dollars over the past several years to do projects within the system, including the Provo River Trail project enhancements, baseball dugout, bleacher shade structures at Fort Utah Park, new playground at Lakewood Park, solar pathway lighting along our trail system, parking lot at the Pioneer Village and Museum, accessibility enhancements at Lions Park, and several others. It's a reimbursement grant, so the city expends the funds and then is reimbursed by the county following the project development. The two elements at Rock Canyon Park that we're looking to use this grant for funding are the restrooms, to enhance the two restrooms that were located on the east side of the bowl. These restrooms will be consolidated in more centralized location near the playgrounds and pavilions, and also the capacity of those restrooms will be enhanced with two family style rooms. Again, enhanced ADA accessibility from the parking lot and better visibility, including some water conservative features within the buildings. All the fixtures will have these components, and some natural lighting that will reduce the electrical demand on those facilities as well. The playgrounds were also being replaced. We've gotten almost 30 years of use out of that playground equipment. And so those are being replaced with what you see here on the screen, with kind of enhanced adventure style, with zip lines, some climbers, some 3 slides with towers, transition platforms, and ladders, and also climbing equipment and swings. We worked with the project design advisory committee to help pick these out, and we feel like this will really enhance our play value at that site. So this resolution will give us the ability to receive those funds, get reimbursed, and then move forward with this project. So I appreciate your consideration of this request.
Thanks so much, Doug. Any questions for Doug? Counselor Hoban.
Hey, Doug.
Hi.
You're annoyed with me today. I can already tell.
Oh, you're good.
Could this grant, just hypothetically, bear with me here, could it be used to get bathrooms at, say, Memorial Park or Lakewood Park?
It could be used anywhere in the system. It's just that this has been programmed into our capital improvement plan for a couple of years. So next year it could be programmed in for the next project that comes along.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Any other questions for Doug? Okay, thanks, Doug.
You bet. Thanks.
We would like to open this item for public comment. All right, council discussion. Councilor Whipple.
I'd like to express my appreciation to Parks and Rec. You guys do a great job getting grants and taking care of facilities and finding the money so that you can maintain and build and improve things so that it's not all coming out of the general fund budget and everything. I will kind of echo Councilor Hoban's concern that there are some parks that don't have bathrooms at all yet. And it does feel a little bit unfair to those neighborhoods and users that we'd upgrade a facility before creating one in a different part of the city. That said, I appreciate that you guys are doing a job, that you have a plan and a schedule. And since we've started having these discussions about parks that have playgrounds that don't have bathroom facilities, you're more cognizant of that. And that's now moved up as, like, I've seen it in some of the priority lists. So I expect that we'll be moving those up and getting those done in the future. And I say this as somebody who would walk with a stroller a mile to a park with, a baby and toddler and everything. And if there's not a bathroom there and I've walked for a mile with the kids, then it's a real problem. And so even a old or inadequate facility is better in that situation than no facility at all. So I would just like to, again, stress that please bump these other projects up that Councilor Hoban has mentioned on the west side and Memorial Park that's right in the middle of Provo. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Councilor Ellsworth.
Yeah, I think it would be worth having a work meeting discussion on the Parks and Rec capital improvements plan, just to review it. I worry a lot about Bicentennial Park, and I think we all have those questions, so maybe that's a better venue to talk about those concerns and see if this is headed in the direction that we're anticipating, or if there's some other process that could be followed in order to distribute.
Counselor Hoban.
Yeah, Parks and Rec is awesome. I think the first meeting I had where Parks and Rec presented, or the first meeting I was at where Parks and Rec presented, I knew I'd like them because they played the Parks and Rec theme as part of their presentation. Yeah, gave us a baseball and everything. And they put some new light bulbs in at the Peaks Field House. Make me feel safe. So I love Parks and Rec. I love what you guys are doing. I will vote no on this based out of principle, because I do feel like parks without bathrooms that do have playgrounds should be prioritized rather than forcing perhaps children to go in the grass or whatever. So hopefully you can appreciate that no vote, just out of principle. I know it won't change the outcome, but thank you.
All right. Any more discussion? All right, let's take a vote. We're going to call for a vote on the implied motion. Chair McKay, yes. Vice Chair Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Ellsworth,
Yes.
Counselor Fillmore's excused, Counselor Hanley's excused, Counselor Shipley,
Yes.
Counselor Hoban.
No.
For the record, that is 4-1, and so it passes. Okay, the next item is an implied motion for a resolution appropriating $1,060,000 in the Mountain Vista Fund for completing the Mountain Vista Business Park Road construction project. And this will be presented, I don't see Dixon, by Kelsey.
Hi, that was a great description. Dixon presented this in work meeting earlier today, but what would happen is if the council approved this, we would move $1,060,000 from the Mountain Vista Fund balance into Mountain Vista Fund. And up to half of that amount will be eligible for reimbursement through the Economic Development Administration matching grant that we have for that. And so, any questions?
Counselor Shipley.
Yeah. So can you give the public and the council an idea of what's in this particular fund as far as the dollar amount, and then what these funds will be used for once we get reimbursed back? What's the ongoing plan for capital improvement in this area with this particular fund?
It's a very good question. I might need to pull John up here to answer some of the details on that, but it's for the Mountain Vista Business Park, and this would help for funding a road that hasn't been developed, but in the past, this fund has been used to develop some of the roads and help get that business park up and running. So yes.
Source of funds was sale of property in this area, and then it was earmarked for capital improvement for this area going forward. So I just a sense of what's left and kind of what's the idea of what it'll be used for next.
John's going to help me out.
Thanks.
John's going to answer a question for us.
Dixon would be best, but I meet with Dixon and Keith fairly often talking about it. But basically, is you're probably aware, as the business park's been built, at one time USX actually had owned the property, and so there was some cleanup that was involved. And so as we have been post cleanup, and they're still, and we've been selling lots, and it's almost getting close to where it's all developed. There is an agreement that we will pay USX back, and we've been tracking that. There was also, as you're probably aware, an interfund loan that was made to do some of the golf course improvements. And the plan is that that loan will be paid back when we start getting increment off of the housing that would be adjacent to the medical school, which hasn't happened yet. And that's roughly $2.1 million. And so they're expecting to get that back. But at the end of the day, when that happens and we get that money back, we are going to have funds there that will be available for future capital improvement projects and things that the city needs to do. But to date, the only money that we've spent out of that has been specifically for the road infrastructure, because we've had a couple different phases on roads. And so we track it as its own separate fund. And so that's kind of where we're at on that. I don't know if I answered your questions or not.
No, that's helpful. Is there a specific amount that's due to USX, or is it contingent on what it takes for us to kind of complete the whole project?
So there is an amount we actually we're tracking it. But right now we have asked them for some information before we can send them the payment, and we're waiting to hear back from them, but we have it set aside and plan on paying that back. And it's a significant amount of money, but they have the money to pay it back plus some on top of that. So yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Public comment. Any public comment on this? Right, council discussion. All right, well, we'll do a vote on the implied motion. Vice Chair Whipple.
Yes.
Counselor Ellsworth.
Yes.
Counselor Fillmore's excused and Counselor Handley's excused. Counselor Shipley
Yes.
and Counselor Hoban.
Yes.
So that's unanimous with 5 votes. All right, an implied motion on a resolution accepting an annexation petition for further consideration for approximately 9.1 acres of property generally located at 5500 North Canyon Road in the North Timpview neighborhood. And this will be presented by Brandon Larson, our planning supervisor.
All right. We've got just,
Do you know what, Brandon, should I read? No, that's only one. Sorry. Go ahead.
no problem. Thank you, council. So this is a rather small annexation, 9 acres, just on the very northeast end of the city. A lot of you are aware there's a lot of unincorporated land that's still out there along Canyon Road. This proposal would bring in, again, 9 acres of it. You can see those 2 bisected pieces. So this proposal would be helpful in 2 ways. One, it will bring in some city infrastructure. There's 2 water facilities in there that would come in, and as well as a dwelling site right there. The Scott and Jenny Smith dwelling there, along with some of their agricultural lands. And this process right here, again, we're kind of towards the front end of the annexation process. This is a resolution for the council to simply to basically consider this annexation to consider it further, really. If you do adopt this resolution, you'll trigger a review by the city attorney and the city recorder. They'll look at the petition to make sure that it meets all the requirements, and if so, it'll trigger a 30-day notice period, and then it will come back to you for a final decision. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those now.
Any questions for Brandon? All right, thank you, Brandon.
Thank
We will
you.
open this up for public comment. All right, any council discussion? I have to say that this is a process, and we appreciate the Smith's patience with this. Any discussion? All right. So we do vote on this, correct, Brian? Okay. So we're going to call for a vote on the implied motion. Counselor Ellsworth.
Yes.
Counselor Fillmore's excused, Counselor Handley's excused, Counselor Shipley.
Yes.
Counselor Hoban.
Yes.
Counselor McKay, yes. Vice Chair Whipple.
Yes.
So that's unanimous with 5 votes. All right, an implied motion on, now Brian, I'm going to read both of these.
Yes, if you want to read them both in at the same time, then they'll need to be voted on separately, but staff can present on both of them at the same time.
Okay. This is an implied motion on ordinance amending the general plan map classification of approximately 0.23 acres of real property generally located at 2050 North Canyon Road from commercial to residential. This is the Pleasant View neighborhood. And it's also an implied motion on an ordinance amending the zone map of approximately 0.48 acres located at 2050 North Canyon Road from general commercial and two-family residential to medium-density residential and authorizing a related development agreement. And these will be presented by Aaron Ardmore, Planning Supervisor.
Okay, thank you, Council. We had a chance this afternoon to briefly talk about these requests, but let me go over for this meeting. So the property is located here on North Canyon Road. We've got a residential home on the south of the highlight and then a commercial property on the north. The concept that went through Plan Commission is this, a 12-unit, two-story apartment building. Providing 21 parking stalls. This was one of the things that staff wanted to make a point to highlight. The developer has shown actually more parking than what's requested. I think more Planning Commission than this body sees a lot of parking reduction requests with apartment projects in an effort to fit as much as you can on a property. We appreciated that this applicant has actually provided sufficient parking for the use here and to keep the cars off the neighboring streets. The other thing that was done here is, again, I said this earlier, but I think it's important, and I want everybody to realize how much it's valued that we have a developer that's listened to the neighborhood concerns and that's listened to staff concerns on this one. Initially, this wasn't the project that was applied for when it came into our department. It was 3 stories. It's a lot more dense. There's a lot less setback between the building and the street. So there was some concerns with all of those things, and through working with staff and meeting with the neighborhood, we got a better product. I think that the rezone that ties this concept plan into a development agreement helps the project fit well with the neighborhood, being at 2 stories, similar to other products around to the east, to the north, and is a lot better project through this process. So to get this done, there are 2 things that were read in. The first is the rezone. So the zone map is up there now. Those 2 properties would be rezoned from the CG on the north and R2PD on the south. Both of those would be rezoned to the medium density residential zone. I forgot to update that slide from earlier slides, so I apologize, but the request is for medium density residential zone. And then as a part of that is adjusting the general plan designation for the north parcel from commercial to residential to make that all work for the zone. The developer, Ryan Salmon, is here. If you had questions for him on future plans for the property, he'd still have to come back with a project plan and go through some of those details. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have with the rezone or general plan amendment.
Thanks, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron? All right, so will we go to the developer next?
Yes, if you have a question for him. Which
Okay,
it
just
sounded
no.
like in study session you did. But yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Council. I'm Ryan Salmon. I'm a resident and homeowner in Provo. I have been almost all my life. Attended elementary school, Dixon Middle School, Provo High, BYU, and now my 5 kids are in Provo School District. And so I come to you not as a developer, real estate, investor. I live here and I want to live here for a long time, and I hope that my kids can as well. And so part of really, I think the guiding inspiration for this was, let's see if we can't create something that contributes to the neighborhood that is affordable housing. Our intent would not be to rent these out. These we hope these would be individually titled and owned in a price range that I think would appeal to a first-time home buyer. And so it's not a student housing project that we're trying to do. It's really something that I plan to drive past for a lot of years and hope to be proud of in something that we've contributed to the city and the neighborhood specifically.
Thank you so much. This is in the neighborhood where I live, and I love this. I love what you've done. I love that you care about the neighborhood and that you're thinking. I love that you listened to them and that you made something that will contribute. And you're dead on, and that I think that for first-time home buyers right now, we have to be more creative, right? We have to do smaller square footprints, and where a one bedroom would have thought of as only apartment back in the day that you could, but that's what people need now to be able to buy, to be their first home and to start building equity. And I think there's a huge market for this. So I'm thrilled that you are looking to have them be purchased and not just be rentals. I'm wondering what your strategy is to ensure that they do stay owner occupied.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. I think first is the floor plan is less likely to appeal to renting to a bunch of singles, or I guess batch singles is maybe a more appropriate term. But I've also explored, and I'll admit up front, I'm not an attorney and there's a lot of work to do there, but informing the HOA, I think there's things that we can do to require a minimum owner occupancy within the development. And then, even within a certain time frame of when it's purchased, for the minimum of 12 months or 18 months, it needs to be owner occupied. And all of these may deter out of state investors from just coming in and buying and turning it into an Airbnb or a rental. But I need to be totally candid that that's still sort of an early exploration right now in terms of what's legal, what we can do. But that is the hope, that these would be owner occupied. People who are going to stay and live and be part of that neighborhood for a longer term.
Yeah, because like here you are getting rid of one single family home or a duplex, I guess it is. But that's what I know myself. That's one thing I always consider, like, do we want to get rid of a single family home? Like, that's a big deal just because our inventory is lighter on that. So to give that up for complexes is more painful. But this seems to have a bigger vision, which I appreciate. Anyone else want to comment or ask the developer any questions? Councilor Whipple.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I actually walked to the little shop that's on this corner property last week because I can walk there from my office where I work. So I'll be able to watch your construction and everything every day.
Keep an eye on us.
Yes, it's fun. Would you anticipate that these would be like condos that you'd sell and have like an HOA and everything that governs it?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I have had conversations with, so this, larger development off just to the east is all under a single HOA. I think it's Garden Vista or Garden Villa, something like that. And I have had conversations with their HOA board, and maybe it makes sense to just wrap that all into the same development. In terms of dealing with parking issues and things, having a single HOA be able to address all of that. But whether it's that HOA or a new one that we establish, it would be condos governed by an HOA.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm happy that you're here and that you care about our city and everything, and that you really have worked in good faith with the neighbors and in making this project something that they want to have, so that you'll be embraced, and also so that the people who come and live here are more likely to be welcomed by the community around them. I know sometimes in past where we've had developments that have gone in where the neighbors weren't happy about it, it kind of gave the cold shoulder to the new residents. And so by being really conscientious through this whole project, you're setting up the people who will live here for great success in Provo. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting that you're thinking about possibly wrapping it up with the other HOA. Does that other HOA in their bylaws have rules about a certain amount have to be owner occupied, or they have to be owner occupied from purchase for a certain amount of time?
Not that I know of. There've been sort of early stage conversations with them. I don't know the depth of that.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I gotta say, your children are little angels over there. Mine would not be that good.
There's technically a no technology policy, but.
Oh, so this is like special event.
Well, I'm saying in this.
Oh, in the, oh, I didn't even know that. Apparently, we're really strict. Well, we're breaking that all the time. Okay. We'd like to open this up for public hearing. Becky Bogdan. We haven't heard from you in a while, Becky. This is great.
Do I need to spell my tricky name or you got it?
Well, I think we know you pretty well.
I was hoping I got to spell that thing. I like this project and I just publicly have to comment and say, how do we get you to build on the west side? Yeah, I have the same sentiments. I like how he works with the neighborhood. I like how he's bringing to Provo what Provo needs and how he works with the city. And yeah, come develop on the west side.
Thank you, Becky. Becky's a long-term neighborhood chair on our west side who has been a good advocate for the west side. All right. Well, I guess we are ready for a vote. All right, we're going to call for a vote on the implied motion. Councillor Fillmore's excused, Councillor Hanley's excused, Councillor Shipley. Okay, wait, we need a vote on each one? Yes. So this will first of all be a vote on amending the general plan map.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Hoban.
Yes.
Councillor McKay, yes. Vice Chair Whipple.
Yes.
Councillor Ellsworth.
Yes.
All right, now we are going to vote on the other implied motion, and this one, you guys, is on the zone change, okay? From general commercial and two-family residential to medium-density residential. Councillor Hanley's excused, Councillor Shipley.
Yes.
Councillor Hoban.
Yes.
Chair McKay, yes. Vice Chair Whipple.
Yes.
Councillor Ellsworth.
Yes.
And Councillor Fillmore is excused. So both of those were unanimous with 5 votes. All right. We've continued Steve Turley's request of zone change at R18 zone to MU zone for approximately 2 acres of land located at 2075 West Center Street. And we've continued the Provo City Development Services request approval of general plan text amendments to Appendix C in order to update zoning standards for agricultural lands. And we've continued the Provo City Development Services request text amendments to Section 1434060, a citywide application. If there's no objection, we will now adjourn the Provo Municipal Council meeting by unanimous consent.